machines. They are spectacular four-wheel drive supercars, very aggressive aero in the cars, all-wheel drive, extreme high performance, and the pace car ducks into pit lane. And this 50-minute sixth round is underway. The green flag flies. John Ferrano in that white nose with the red panel 63 coming down, but a big mover, an attempt around the outside, not going to happen, trying to go 3 abreast down through the 90, and somehow these guys made it work. That was spectacular, but when they all went 3 abreast, that gave John Ferrano the green light, and he's already opened up a little bit of a gap, Joe.
Just like he did yesterday afternoon, already 6+ car lengths through the uphill section of the racetrack. The 07 settling into the second spot. That's the team co-driven by Eversley and Mason to start the event. And here's a battle now for the third spot. Here's Conway looking down to the bottom, Kevin Conway, and he will go by Cody Ware at the entrance of the bus stop.
Yeah, I think Victor Gonzalez went by Cody as well, took advantage of that little bit of a gap, and just that quick, Conway has glommed onto the back of Eversley, the Eversley Mason car. He's trying to go through, and remember, the reason is that he's came in here as the point leader. He hung on to the point lead, even though he ended up 4th in the race yesterday. So he wants to get by the Eversley Mason machine. That's that gray car with the green tint in it, and get by them. And the problem right now that's playing up for Kevin Conway is hard as stern right now is the guy with Victor Gonzalez, who we watched yesterday in that race, was really aggressive.
So aggressive that he lost the handle up there at the bus stop right off course, but that wasn't completely uncommon. I mean, a lot of the drivers among the top 5 had their struggles throughout the day today, or yesterday, I should say. Gonzalez now solidly inside the top 4 as Cody Ware has slid back a little bit. Some good battles a little bit deeper in the field as a circuit around through turns 9 into 10, and race winner from yesterday, John Ferrano, still with a healthy advantage. Well, round a complete lap. Number 1, Ferrano out in front. 63. Battle for the second spot. Here's Conway. Looking at driver's right. Hard under braking into the 90. Right-hand turner, and Conway takes over the second spot. And the Mason Eversley machine is now slid back into 3rd. Boy, Conway is on it. He is moving around this racetrack.
Well, he was aggressive right from the drop of the green, as he said, trying to go down and split those guys, and made it 3 abreast down at the 90. Everybody was wise enough to say, this is a little sketchy. Let's be a little gentle with it here. But he is booking, and it looks like that is now Cody Ware dropped back a little bit right at the start, but now it looks like he might have found his rhythm just a little bit, and he is coming right back after and attacking the Eversley Mason duo in that 07 machine right now.
Headed down into turn 6 in the boot, couple of car lengths behind that 07 is Cody Ware. Oh, Mason Eversley goes wide in turn number 6. Cody Ware not quite close enough to challenge. And now we'll go back on the attack in turn 7.
Fun to watch these cars, and again, with the four-wheel drive nature of it, you can really start to feed throttle a little bit sooner because you've got that front end pulling that car around as well. Makes them a lot of fun to really be able to get after it here. We got a couple of really good battles here, and this one, it didn't take long here. Once Conway got clear, he has absolutely run down John Ferrano, and this is your battle for the lead right now. Ferrano coming out, a little darting around in his mirrors, and now says, okay, I've got him covered at least at this point. Let's watch for what happens right now. Conway, not going to try anything overly aggressive. And here we go. Here's that other battle. Boy, Victor Gonzalez going with Conway has caught that lead duo now and is going to try and make it a 3-car battle for the lead. Then a little bit of a gap back to the Eversley Mason machine as they're continuing. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what these cars are like. Give you a little idea of what these machines are. They are spectacular. The Lamborghini Gallardo LP 574 Super Trofeo car. It might just be the ultimate single-make race car. It's the only four-wheel drive GT racer in the world. 570 horsepower, V10. Features unbelievable technology, paddle shift, e-gear trannies, Olin's race shocks, Brembo brakes, carbon fiber aero package, including that big rear wing, 10 adjustable click positions, MTA data acquisition, jacks, air jacks, center wheel locks, and more. It is a wicked package, and these guys, they get out of these cars, the grins you see are just absolutely ridiculous. And of course, these cars are going to be supplanted in the near future with the new Huracan, the LP 610 horsepower four-wheel drive machine, which, by the way, is being displayed throughout the weekend here in the hospitality village for this championship, Joe.
They are an amazing vehicle. Just when you sit stationed around the speedway here, you can just hear the power that these all-wheel drive vehicles are able to perform. Four wheels put the power to the ground, and they need every bit of that rubber to harness the power that these Lamborghinis put out. And yesterday, we saw an exciting event that went right down to the wire. This is a 45-minute event that now already 5.5 minutes in. John Ferrano continuing to be the race leader, but don't look now, because coming in quickly at 29, Kevin Conway. He is really starting to track in the top leader, and he's going to probably try to put a move on him here on the front straightaway, just like he did to get the second spot. Back off turn number 11, coming back down along the front straightaway. Ferrano has a very good run, and he'll be able to fend off the challenge of Kevin Conway.
Yeah, and Victor Gonzalez had glommed on and to the back, was only a couple of car lengths off of Conway's rear wing. He's fallen back just a little bit now, and I don't know whether he had a little bit of a bobble somewhere or found that he was pushing the car a little too hard, using up these Pirelli tires a little bit too much, but he has dropped off just a little bit, and that's going to now set up as Cody Ware has been able to get around Ray Mason, we understand, the starting driver in this 07 Pro-Am car, and he would be the AM component in that car. And there is a look at John Ferrano. Again, two different categories. The Pro-Am category, where it's either the pro driver or the car shared by a pro and an amateur, or the amateur category. They are split into two different categories and classes, so we'll be tracking that. But right now, John Ferrano showing why he runs in the pro category. The other thing we wanted to mention is that there are a number of the Super Trofeo championships around the world. There's the Asian Championship, and this weekend going on right now, or of course earlier in the day with the time change at Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet, France, was the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo European Championship, and just know they've been having a lot of fun over there, and hope that racing is as good as we're seeing here, because what we're seeing here, pretty spectacular.
A little bit deeper in the field, Lee Davis just went around the Kevin O'Connell machine. They're also racing back there with Lee Carpentier, and the battle back for, 10th? Davis now in the 10th spot, being able to go around in turn number 7. Battle for the race lead beginning to heat up a little bit more into turn number 10. Ferrano has the position, and Kevin Conway put a little bit of a move on him, got a little bit wide that time coming off of turn number 10, and I don't think he's going to be able to challenge by the time they hit the front straightaway once again.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating what we're seeing unfolding here. And again, now it looks like Gonzalez was able to close it up just a little bit here. Not enough, not where he was. I wonder if he's just being a little bit mindful. He did have that spin yesterday, and he may have looked at data, may have spent some time with Scott Speed, who of course is here serving as sort of a data and reference point for them, setting a bar with that lap time he had set earlier in the session, and working with some of these drivers. May have said part of the problem was you pushed a little bit too hard, and these cars very powerful, a lot of stick, and you can run the Pirellis off just a little bit. You may have said back it off a little bit early, save something to be able to run hard at the end of the race.
That's part of the strategy. Even in a 50-minute event, you've got to be able to make it to the end. But here comes that 0-3 again, trying to make another move. Davis swinging down to drivers right at the entrance of the bus stop. Will pick up a position there, and that'll shuffle the Lance Fenton, number 15, back into the 10th spot. So Davis has been picking up some positions. He actually started the event back in 13th. Now is currently running up in the 9th position and headed for the boot. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, the 80 of Lee Carpentier diving down to the inside of Kevin O'Connell. A very aggressive move heading into turn number 7 down into the boot, and Brian Owen in that battle as well. That's a great battle on the racetrack. It's headed down into turn number 7, that right-hand uphill turn, and right in the middle of that, Kevin O'Connell, it's a battle for 10th, 11th, and 12th.
These guys putting on a great show. By the way, we just received word that some congratulations should go out to Pavlovic Piscopo and Jerome Moule at Paul Ricard for their wins just a few hours ago here at that great circuit over there in Le Castellet, France. And with that race win, it's an interesting story here as the Milos Pavlovic Eduardo Piscopo duo for Bonaldi Motorsports still lead the Pro Class standings with a 1-point lead over Jerome Moule, and that Dutchman, the Automobili Lamborghini RT Germany, took the race 2 win. That's his third victory of the season and has brought him up to within 1 point of the points championship. So fierce action over there as well. And, you know, after what we had yesterday in our 6th round of the North American Championship, it's Kevin Conway leads the points, but it's a dead heat tie in terms of point numbers with John Ferrano, and Conway actually gets the nod because he's got one higher points finish in that, one higher position finish. So a dead even tie with Andrew Palmer, who's not here this weekend, 3rd. Al Carter not running this weekend, 4th. And Kevin O'Connell coming up and being your top competitor in the amateur category, a 5th in the overall run. So good points battling here. I mean, whenever you've got a dead even tie for the points lead, that's pretty spectacular stuff.
Yeah, and Conway's probably thinking, man, I gave some away yesterday, and he did because he had the chance. Oh, we got one car that went straight through the bus stop. It's the 9, and Kevin O'Connell was running that great battle that we've noticed, 10, 11, and 12, and O'Connell makes the stop after going through the cut-through and continues on. But getting back to Kevin Conway there a moment ago, Conway, we thought he was going to win it yesterday. I mean, he was off and running. Scott Speed led early on, had a problem with the tire on that automobile, and then it was Conway the rest of the way, but got into trouble, served a penalty, was deep in the field, charged back up to 4th, but left some on the table, and he could have gotten some more. But now Ferrano and Conway picking up right where they left off yesterday in a battle for the race lead.
Well, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because we were talking, before the race with Al Palmer here, that, as you said, Conway had an opportunity to really open up that points battle, and then slipping to 4th with Ferrano's win, suddenly they're tied. I mean, that's just absolutely unbelievable. Oh, very close here, as that was Ferrano coming up onto the back of the number 77 of Joe Courtney. And Courtney, he must be having an issue because he wouldn't have gone down a lap that fast, and obviously he's got some issue and is heading down into the pits. Oh, sorry, that was the team car. I was looking at the wrong one here. That's the 03 of Lee Davis. Also in those Jota Corse colors that we have right here. There is your race leader of Ferrano, and ever present in those mirrors right now is that black entry, the Change Racing entry.
Boy, Ferrano caught the rumble strip at the bus stop. The car got all out of shape, and Conway was able to close right in, really putting the pressure on heading in the downhill to turn 6, but that got a little bit sticky because he got through that left-hand turn of the bus stop, and the car did a little wiggle on him, and Conway is right there to challenge now on the downhill to turn 7.
Boy, it's interesting, and now Gonzalez is closing it up again. He was down over 2 seconds last time by down to 1.9, and it looks a little bit closer than that, and that may have been because both of these guys, as you said, Ferrano got loose at the bus stop, and right behind him, Conway had to breathe out of it a little bit to not get into him when that car stepped out. Now Conway just took a look, showed the nose for a moment, down into the heel of the boot. He knew it wasn't really on, but I think he's just trying. He saw that wiggle by Ferrano, and a driver, oftentimes you see that opportunity, you start getting in the mirrors all the time, thinking maybe I've rattled him now. If I can really start to hound him, something might happen here.
One car that has gone off course, it's the 73 of Brian Owen, has spun in turn 5. He's able to right that car and continue on back underway. Just a local caution. We stay under the full course, green flag condition.
Down the front straight they come, and still Conway just glued under that wing. But look at Ferrano's car just dancing. He is so late on the brakes everywhere. Well, he is extracting everything he possibly can out of that car right now. We're coming up on 14 minutes complete. Remember, when we hit 20 minutes in, there's a 10-minute window. Everybody's got to go in and do a mandatory 2-minute pit stop during that period. So right now, I think Ferrano is just trying to make sure he stays in the lead until he gets to that point. But he's pressuring, he's working hard. And Victor Gonzalez, as he came by here, and trimmed another half second off of that lead. And guess what? That half second, it was 1.2. It's gone. He is all over the back of these guys.
Gonzalez is moving. He's closer to Conway than Conway is to the race leader, John Ferrano. It's probably about 8 car lengths into turn number 6 at this point. Conway runs the middle groove of the racetrack, but Gonzalez keeps his car pinned right down to the rumble strip, and now they power and accelerate downhill to turn number 7. While they battle for the second spot, Ferrano has been able to get a little bit of a breathing room, and that allows him to stretch that advantage just a little bit. That was only 0.2 of a second when they came by last time around, but boy, Gonzalez, his lap times are a couple of tenths better than the top 2 cars, and he is proving that right now. And if you look a little bit further back, that red number 38, Cody Ware, who finished on the podium yesterday, sitting there right there in 4th.
Yeah, I mean, he's really started to come alive again as well. And then there's a fairly large gap of some 7 seconds from Cody Ware back to 5th. That's the number 81, the amateur of Mark Bowden. And so not quite the pace that Mark wanted to see at this point, running for that Lamborghini Chicago. And for Fall Line Motorsport, want to welcome them to the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo North America Championship. They had a big announcement, said that that team, which, you know, they run BMWs in the Continental Tire Series. They also run an Audi in the Tudor United Sports Car Championship. They made a big announcement that they were also going to be joining this Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship as well, and bringing Mark Bowden along. Of course, he is one of the principals at Fall Line and a very talented club driver. I've watched him race for a lot of years at tracks like Road America, Brainerd, Blackhawk Farms. He is really good, and it's going to take a little bit of time to make the adjustment to these cars. He's not doing terrible, is he? Sitting in the 5th spot right now and 2nd in the amateur class.
You know, in these events, when you get into that window that you were talking about just a few moments ago, when that pit window opens up, it completely changes the complexion of the event. And that's why Kevin Conway is putting so much pressure on the race leader, John Ferrano, now, because he wants to have that number 1 position into turn number 7. 2 car lengths separating the top 2. Ferrano number 1, Conway number 2, and the pit stop window will open up in 3 minutes. And so that's the strategy that these guys are playing through. And to some of the teams, there's 4 teams out there that are running with co-drivers. And so we're probably going to see some driver changes that take place on a select number of teams as well.
Looking at the number 80 of Lee Carpenter running 10th right now. That's a good race, starting in the 14th spot for Lamborghini Palm Beach and Mitcham Motorsports. So Lee bringing that car up very nicely, thank you, from a little bit farther back in the field. They didn't get quite the finish they wanted yesterday. We're pretty much out of it early, and he's giving it a good ride now. And oh boy, this is where it's getting interesting. Is Conway, he is getting a little restless, wanted to almost try the outside to get by Ferrano as they headed into turn 12. You don't want to do that because there's a big old barrier that's waiting for you on the outside if anything goes wrong. But he took a run at it, and once again, Victor Gonzalez, who had dropped off again to the tune of about 1.5 seconds, has just made that up in no time at all, and he is bringing Cody Ware with him, who is our amateur driver. Cody not far behind these group of 3 pro category drivers. There's Cody just flashing out of your screen. Up through the S as we go.
Conway, the last time through turn 9, 10, and 11, was bobbing and weaving all over the racetrack, trying to find a way around John Ferrano, and that ended up hurting him coming up through the S's because Ferrano down the back straightaway got a good drive past the top of the hill and went cruising on through. But the spot of the racetrack that Ferrano in that white 63, the race leader, continues to struggle with is through the bus stop. That's when Conway and Gonzalez in his own right are able to close right in, and then down into the boot. Conway is just so much more efficient on that end of the racetrack, and you can see that he is closing in now only 3 car lengths back to the race leader Ferrano and Conway, and Gonzalez sitting there waiting in the wings. He's ready to pounce whenever these guys start racing wheel to wheel for the top position.
Yeah, this is really fun to watch because they're running different lines, aren't they? Ferrano tends to be a lot wider into the turn, diamond it a little bit. He wants to get it rotated, use that all-wheel drive and that 570 horsepower and get it straightened out. But the thing is that as you go in wide and then you diamond, at that pivot point, you really are losing some speed. And you can see that Conway, he just turns it in and just maintains a nice even line through there. He's He's got a little bit better mid-corner speed and can still feed throttle as he comes out. But those guys are running 57s behind him. You've got Gonzalez, Cody Ware, and now Ray Mason has come alive and has dipped into the 56s a couple of times and has gone around Mark Bowden at that point. So now Mason sits in the 07 in the 5th spot. Bowden is 6th in the number 81, and we are 30 seconds from that mandatory pit window opening. It opens from 20 to 30 minutes in to this 50-minute race. There's a look at Mason, and once he got through on Bowden, he's starting to open it up just a little bit now.
And Mason started the event up in the 2nd spot, has since slid back to position number 5 when Gonzalez and Ware went by simultaneously up there on the bus stop. And now Mason riding in the 5th spot, but having a pretty good run here in that 07 to back up the 2nd place effort from a day ago.
Just got the announcement from race control. The mandatory pit window is now open. So they've got 10 minutes, these guys, to come in. If you've got 2 drivers entered in the car, you do the driver change. If not, even if you can do a tire change and fuel easily within 2 minutes, you're there for 2 minutes. That's per rule. And what that does is it allows the guys that are running multiple drivers to not have to do these rocket quick driver changes and the like. And it's a good program for them. After all, this is good, close, fun racing, but it is gentleman racing in a way. And that's how it should be. And get out there and enjoy these cars. That's the magic of it, isn't it?
It's hard not to enjoy them here on this beautiful day. The action is intense, but just because it is gentleman racing doesn't mean that they leave anything out on the table, because they are going after it. So don't think that for a second. We can see that clearly by the battle that we have up at the front of the class between John Ferrano and Kevin Conway. So you have to think over the next basically 4 laps, with about 2-minute laps around this racetrack, that you're going to see these teams start peeling off and heading into the pit lane for that mandatory 2-minute pit stop.
No takers yet from our group up front. Well, and as I say that, at the last second, that was a nice sight move by Conway. He just tucked in like he was going to stay right with Ferrano, and even Gonzalez couldn't react to it quick enough, and Conway makes the move early into the pits. That was a nice job by Conway.
Now, the key for Conway is not to speed on the pit lane, because that was what spoiled his day yesterday, that he had to come in for the penalty. He's sitting there. 2 minutes is a long time to wait, but you got to have in your mind the mental toughness to know, hey, everybody else has got to come in for that 2 minutes. We see the Davis car is now coming in down the pit lane. That'll put Scott Speed in that race car, who was the other driver of that car. Started the event yesterday, but had a tire issue. We see some more cars coming down the pit lane as well, so it becomes a very active pace here in this Lamborghini feature event.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this play out now with all these drivers ducking in, making the certainly the change in the tire change. And boy, that is Ray Mason now is working around, I think, some lap traffic at this point, and he's still got Bowden right there behind him. And I think that's Simon Kirkby in the number 76, that bright yellow car, has come into play here, and he's run down right. Yep, that's him, and he's right on the back now of Mark Bowden. This is the battle for the top 5. And getting back to your gentleman comment, gentlemen are ultimately can be incredibly, competitive, and when the gauntlet glove is thrown across the face, when you're a gentleman, you just do it with a really high quality leather.
That's exactly what it is. Pit stops continuing here on the pit lane. We got the Kevin O'Connell car that has now made his stop. The 80 car about ready to take off the pit lane. That is now going to be driven by Dylan McCavern, and Conway is now back underway.
Very genteelly trying to avoid that. The number 15 also, that's Lance Fenton, one of our amateur drivers in the Lamborghini Toronto Rick Ware Racing machine, that also has stopped in on the pit lane. And then, as you said, the number 80 car. Interesting to see when McAvern gets in. I've watched Dylan race. He does a lot of racing down in the southeast, where he's home now. And I watch him drive some big GT1 Trans Am Thunder machinery around here. So he's very at home in high horsepower stuff, and he's going to be loving the extra grip he's got in these cars.
Now, the twist that we had yesterday that didn't play out in the event was that Scott Speed started the event, and then Lee Davis was slated to get in the car late in the going, but Speed, while leading, had that tire come off, Davis did a pretty good job over the first section of that race to put that car up inside the top 9, and now we get to watch Scott Speed try to race his way up through the field now for the second half of this event.
Absolutely, and we just watched here Conway coming out right in front of the 38 of Cody Ware, who by my reckoning has not yet stopped. And so that was key for Conway to get out, get in front of Cody at this point, and try and open it up a little bit. So when Cody goes in, makes his stop, if he hits it just at the same timing period as Conway did, that would put Conway in front of him at this point. The wild card right now is Ferrano, obviously, and that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out once everybody else makes their stops. But Conway, we haven't heard any comment about anything going wrong with his pit speed on the exit of pit lane. That's why John Ferrano has made his stop. He is in. It's interesting, you know, for him, they're not really doing anything to the car. They're not putting tires on, not worrying about it. The crew member, that's an easy job for a crew member. All he's got to do is time the stop.
Well, they did it all in the shop before they got here. It was ready to go because it was quick yesterday, quick today. And now that 63 is released from the pit stall and heads out onto the racetrack. We'll see where it all shakes out here. Conway now flashing beneath the flag stand to put another lap up on the scoreboard, currently being showed 7th as we work the 12th lap of this event. Halfway point, we're down to less than 25 minutes remaining.
And your leader, Cody Ware, in the number 38, has made his call into pit lane. Hits his marks. Crew is there. Lean down, have a bit of a chat. See some of the Pirelli tire guys down there looking at temps, looking at pressures. And the 07 Mason comes in, and Ryan Eversley leaps off the wall, coming around to help Ray Mason get out of the car. And Eversley, you know, Mason, this is a classic case. He's listed as the amateur driver. Ray Mason's fast, folks, no question about it. And now you put Eversley in, who's faster still. This is going to be fun to watch. And of course, Scott Speed now is going to be on board that 03, who set that time. Was it a 50.2? I think he had a lap that was 1.2 seconds quicker than anybody else. And that's what they wanted Scott here, too, to sort of set the benchmark. And then he's made all of his data available to all these drivers and said, here's what's possible. Go at it. Go at it in baby steps, but go at it.
We're also noticing that on that 07 Mason Ryan Eversley entry is that they have put 2 rear tires on that automobile to help it propel around this racetrack. So that'll be interesting to see how much of an impact those tires will make now with Ryan Eversley behind the wheel of that black 07.
And that's a look, folks, watching with us here at IMSA.com. That is your leader now, the amateur driver who started dead last in the field after having a tough start and not completing a lap yesterday. That's Anthony Imperato, who finds himself now up front, driving for Lamborghini Dallas and Giotto Corsa in that pretty yellow Lamborghini. That's a good color for a Lamborghini, isn't it?
It's the perfect color when you get down to it. Looks awesome. Some of these cars that were on the pit lane here now being released, among them Cody Ware and Ryan Eversley, all being released off the pit lane. Mark Bowden appears to be on the pit lane as well, and Imperati has not yet made his pit stop, so we're expecting that he'll bring that car down the pit lane here as the pit window will close in 2.5 minutes, and so the opportunity for him to come down is certainly going to be in the near future so they can complete their service there as well.
And what a change of pace, quite literally, for Ryan Eversley, who earlier did well, and Ray Mason too, but for Ryan Eversley, who earlier today had a fantastic run to second place in the street tuner division of the Continental Tire Sports Car Championship in a Honda Civic SI, now climbs behind the wheel of a Lamborghini Gallardo Super Trofeo machine at 570 horsepower all-wheel drive. Oh, yeah.
There's the race leader, Anthony Imperato, who is coming in now for his service. That'll cycle things back around. And Cody Ware is going to be potentially, once he gets cycled back around, we'll see where he and Conway shake out. Conway did get out ahead of Victor Gonzalez. Of the 2 cars that have pitted, we're waiting for the rest of the field to cycle on through to see how Conway will stack up against Cody Ware.
That was interesting, wasn't it? Because before Cody pitted, Conway completed his stop and was out front. But we're not factoring in and out laps, and that makes a big deal, too. When you're doing these type of stops, it's, you know, that speed you get after you've sat in pit lane. Whether or not you've done a tire change still just sitting for 2 minutes, those tires are going to cool off a little bit, and the guy who's able to extract speed out of that right away, they're going to have a certain advantage here. And so now we're going to see how things cycle through here as they come by. Yep, that's what we thought. It was Conway who had nicked out in front of Cody Ware, and Victor Gonzalez now has done a superb job and finds himself slotting into second. Here comes Cody Ware, but he is under attack already, isn't he?
07 of Ryan Eversley will drop down to his right and go by in turn number 1. So Cody Ware losing the position. That'll put him back in the 4th spot. But the big surprise is, where is that 63 for John Ferrano? Because he comes across the line in the 9th position after leading when they started pit stops.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Simply, and he didn't do a change. They didn't do tires. They didn't do anything. They just timed the stop and then let him go. So what happened there? That is interesting. And now, as they just announced, the mandatory pit window has closed. We are at less than 20 minutes remaining here in round number 6.
Talk about the in and the out lap of coming down the pit lane. A huge move by Kevin Conway. And, well, look at this battle here by Scott Sharp. Sharp on the move, trying to pick up the spot around the 81 of Mark Bowden up here in turn 5. And that car has got a fire lit under its speed now in the 8th position. And he is moving around this racetrack, certainly picking up a lot of ground, but a long way to go. Some 28 seconds behind in the 8th position.
By the way, I said Eversley, and of course his teammate Kyle Gimple had second in ST. They were running second in ST, and then the problem happened for the 04 Porsche that stumbled on fuel and stopped, and they were in position. They had been in a fierce battle with that car and another of their competitors, the Michael Valiante, Chad Gilsinger entry, and those guys went through and won in that Compass 360 machine with all of that help for the Children's Tumor Foundation and the like. So they weren't second, they won it. And boy, can he make it a 2-for day? That'd be fun.
Boy, problems for the 63 of John Ferrano has gone around in turn number 7, and his car sitting crossways across the racetrack. Wow, so heartbreak there for that team. Similar to what we saw with Kevin Conway. Now Ferrano sitting parked on the racetrack, and gets a gear. He's able to get that car rolling again. For a second, I didn't think he was going to be able to continue on, but his car now creeping right in the apex of that turn in turn 7. Left rear tire is down.
Oh, that's what happened. He must have cut the tire on something. You know, we watched him earlier, didn't we? He was pretty aggressive on the curbs, and when he came in for that pit stop, they did not do a tire change. He just basically, as I said, the crew guy timed the stop and let him go, and that may have been a mistake. Clearly it was, to not do the tire change, because that could have been damaged. He was real aggressive on the curbs a couple of times, to the point that we saw the car actually get very loose in spots as well. And so that's a tough deal for him at this point. And he's got a long limp around, and we'll see whether he's able to make it around, and if there's time to get those tires changed and get him back out again. Meanwhile, watching the number 38 of Cody Ware right now, sitting in that 4th spot. He is right now some 4 seconds off of Ryan Eversley. Eversley finds himself some 6 seconds back of Victor Gonzalez, who's 3 seconds back of Kevin Conway. But, you know, there's still plenty of time left, and we'll start to see if somebody's able to really throw some laps at it. Ryan Eversley's last lap was a 53.8, and we're getting a full course caution is being called. A full course caution is coming out, and I wonder if there's some debris that came off perhaps Ferrano's car that's in the wrong piece of the track that they've got to take care of, but we have a full course caution.
Well, I'm not sure that Ferrano was able to actually make it all the way back around. I think he ended up just off course. The driver's left up there in turn number 7, and I think that was the reason why the full course caution comes out. But that'll work in the favor of Victor Gonzalez, because he'll be able to close right in on the back bumper of Kevin Conway here for the final start. We've got about 17 minutes left to go, and they're already calling for the cars to pack up behind the safety car. So we are expecting another restart here in the final 16 and a half minutes.
Yeah, we just got the report that it's just they're gonna hook up and get Ferrano moved and go back to green here. And the guy that is going to be really grinning about that's Eversley, who had been running laps a couple seconds quicker than Conway and Gonzalez in front of him here. And Scott Speed, who's now on board that 03 machine, we'll see if he's able to uncork a few here and get right into play here. It's currently the 29 of Conway, the 99 of Gonzalez, the 07 now of Eversley, the 38 of Cody Ware, and Cody would be the top amateur driver out there right now running at 4th, so nice job by him. The 76 of Simon Kirkby, second in the amateur category. The 81 of Mark Bowden is sitting 6th. 7th is the 03 now of Scott Speed, who shares with the amateur Lee Davis. 8th, the number 33 of Dean DiGiacomo, who is a pro driver, I believe. Then in 9th now is the guy who would be 3rd in the amateur ranks, Lance Fenton in the number 15, and completing the top 10, Dylan McIvern, the amateur driver, in the number 80.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch here on this final restart, or what we anticipate to be the final restart. Scott Speed may have a very quick car in the 03, that white and red car, but he's going to be in 7th. It's a lot of ground to cover and a lot of cars to pass. It's going to be exciting to watch as he works his way up through the field, but passing 6 cars at this stage of the race is not necessarily going to be an easy task, and it's going to take all the skill that Scott Speed has to be able to get the job done, especially with Conway and Gonzalez running as fast as they are at this point in the event.
Yeah, true that, and also Ryan Eversley. I mean, he's, with the speeds we've been seeing out of Ryan, he's a pretty darn good shoe. It's not like he's just going to let everybody go blowing by him. And, if Ryan Eversley can keep Scott Speed behind him, there's a little feather for you.
Oh, absolutely. And, I mean, he started walking away from Cody Ware. He went by him and just started checking out. And it was, 10 car lengths, 20 car lengths, seconds, tenths, and it just started stacking up like that. So Eversley is going to be in a real good position. It's going to make this restart pretty interesting, because we already saw Conway and Gonzalez on the original start. They were super aggressive, diving it down into that hard right-hand turn number 1. I think you're going to see Eversley say, hey, you know what, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to sail it down in there too and see what happens. See if I can get a fender down to the inside and get good position headed for the S's.
Yeah, Kevin Conway, too, he's got the extra motivation of that point scenario. And now with Ferrano's problems and stalled on track, he's going to be well down in terms of any kind of points he's going to score. He was tied with Conway coming in, so this is a mega opportunity right now for Conway to open up a solid little gap here. Palmer, Carter are not here. Kevin O'Connell has had his problems. He was the top amateur category driver in this one, too. So this is an opportunity for Eversley and Mason to move up a little bit. Cody Ware as well to close it up. But this is a golden opportunity for Kevin Conway to really put a stamp and open up a significant margin here in this championship after 6 rounds.
Still working up in the turn 7 area of the racetrack to clear that, and that's why the safety car remains on track for at least another circuit here. We're coming down to 13 minutes remaining in this event, so we should see probably another 5, maybe 6 laps around this circuit here. And coming up after this, we've got the Porsche GT3 Cup event for a 45-minute event that will put the period on our day of racing today. And of course, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we'll see the green flag for the Salen's 6-hour at the Glen for the Two-Door United Sports Car Championship Series. Do remind you that the pit walk will open at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Great opportunity to be a part of that, as well as a pit stop demo with the Ganassi and the Wayne Taylor team. That'll happen at 10 in the morning. We do have a little on-track activity with the warm-up at 8:30, but the main event tomorrow at 11:10 when the green flag flies. But be here nice and early, because you've got access to the paddock area, you've got access to the infield, and down on the grid at 10 o'clock we'll open it up, and you can see all the cars that are going to be competing in the Salen's 6-hour at the Glen tomorrow.
Get here real early, you can have a cup of coffee with Joe, who's going to be just sort of absorbing.
I'll be hanging out up
energy,
here.
baby.
I love the morning, man.
I know.
I will be here.
Be liking that. Lights out on the safety car, so we're going back to it here, as we are going to be coming up by the time they get around and pick it up, probably right in the 10-minute to go range at this stage. And that's the guy, Kevin Conway. He's going to want to try and just make good and escape. Problem is, he's got a guy we know is aggressive in Victor Gonzalez behind him. We got a guy we know is fast in Ryan Eversley behind him. Cody Ware, no slouch either, is our top amateur guy. And back a few spots, yeah, but awfully quick. Is Scott Speed suddenly, he's dropped down to 11th. He was sitting in 7th. And Speed now has dropped down, according to our scoring, into the 11th spot is now Di Giacomo, Fenton, McIvern, and Imperato have all moved up a spot. Not sure what that's all about. Well, it's curiouser and curiouser.
Well, we still got a little bit before they come back around. Right now working in the heel of the boot and then coming back up to turn number 9. But this start is going to be what tells the story here the rest of the way. We saw Conway and Gonzalez super aggressive. How aggressive will Eversley be in the 07? What about Cody Ware, Simon Kirkby? Can they become challengers here on this start? All comes down to that last restart. So many often you say, hey, you're only as good as your last restart. And we're going to put that to the test right here, coming up on the 10-minute to go mark.
Closing in now is the front of the field, working up to turn 11. That beautiful Lamborghini pace car is going to make its move down into the pit lane. And leading him up, here he comes, folks, is Conway. Oh, but a big move early. Victor Gonzalez showing the nose. He wanted to do something with it. On the outside is Ryan Eversley. Eversley going to try and run the outside of Gonzalez down into turn 1. See if he's going to be able to make this work. Eversley is going to go for it here. And, ooh, very close, almost a bump, and Eversley had to move a little bit. And he's still going to try and do the outside up through the S's. Unbelievable move by Ryan Eversley.
And he had the preferred line going into that second turn of the S's, and that was able to propel him up the hill. And Ryan Eversley has taken over the second spot in the 07. Gonzalez back to third, and Cody Ware riding in fourth.
And, of course, that little bit of a moment when they were side by side, that near touch when they both had to adjust a little bit, that slowed them up, and that allowed Conway to open up a little bit of a margin, but it didn't take long. Ryan Eversley is already made up most of what he lost. He's only a couple of car lengths away from that rear wing of Kevin Conway as they're heading down into the boot.
The other move that went unnoted on that start was the 81 car of Mark Bowden. He took him 3 wide on the front straightaway, was 8th, now back into the top 5. That was a very aggressive move as well, and was able to pick up a couple of spots. Now riding comfortably there in the 5th, now got shuffled back. He's back in the 6th position now in the 81.
Boy, these guys are putting on a great show and some spectacular machinery. Got to be loving that. And just watching these cars as they're working up. That's out of the toe of the boot, now down into the heel. And a big move there. No, not able to get it done. A little bit farther back in the pack. Everywhere they are racing hard. Here's that battle for the lead. Conway, you can't even see Eversley behind him. Then that little gap now back to Victor Gonzalez. And Gonzalez has some company, doesn't he? He's got Cody Ware right there. Did that look to me like Eversley was pitting? He did. So aggressive, and suddenly Ryan Eversley ducked into pit lane.
And there he comes down the pit lane. Eversley, so strong with that power move through the S's on the restart, and now has to give it all up as he comes down the pit lane, that 07.
This must be a drive-through penalty. I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, it would either be speeding on pit exit maybe, or it could have been if he went a little early on the start. That's what may have given him that jump on Gonzalez. And, oh, unbelievable. So now Ryan Eversley is dead last, and it is go time. So that gave Conway the break he needed. Gonzalez, Cody Ware. Look at Mark Bowden. As you said, he went to 5th, back to 6th, now 4th.
We just heard from timing and scoring as well that the penalty for the 07 has been assessed. So that was the problem for the Eversley team to bring it down the pit lane. Also heard a report that there might have been a car that had gone off course up there in turn 8. But look at the battle for the race lead. How about Conway? He's got a mirror full of Victor Gonzalez and Cody Ware.
Yeah, it's just amazing here. And joining him is Bowden, who has just had an immense sudden turn of speed and allowed him a big gap back to Simon Kirkby. And this is going to be good. Oh, and there is the car that is off. And it is well and truly entrenched down there in the gravel down at the exit. Well, really almost the entrance to turn 8. It's just like he went straight off. That's an odd angle to have that kind of an off, but the gravel doing what it's supposed to do. But meanwhile, think of this 4-car train. Then Kirkby comes slicing through. Then it's Dylan McIvern in that white number 80.
Field rumbles back into turn number 10. We'll swing it back around. We're approaching the 6-minute left mark here in this event. And the race leaders come strolling on back down through the start-finish line, working lap number 20. Gonzalez has a good run coming down the end of the front straightaway. But Conway had built up enough of an advantage where Gonzalez couldn't drop the nose to the inside and challenge at the entrance of turn 1.
And we're just about 5 minutes left in this one. It'll be under 5 when they come back around. So Conway, as you said, has got a mirror full of competitors. Then that little bit of a gap back to that 5th spot car of Simon Kirkby. But right now, the question is going to be, can Conway, who has won twice already this season in the opening 2 rounds at Sebring, is he going to be able to deal with this pressure? And is Victor Gonzalez, who very similar deja vu type set of circumstances yesterday late in the race, was hounding Conway and then had it go all wrong when he spun it down in that inner loop. Can Gonzalez this time keep that car under control and really give Conway a run? Boy, he sure is racy right now.
If you're Gonzalez, I think you just got to continue to push that pressure consistently over and over and over again. So Conway is feeling that pressure, and as you had noted earlier, that mirror driving technique. So that way Conway feels that pressure, and Gonzalez is there, but he's not applying it right now as they head down towards turn number 8. You got to tip the cap to Cody Ware, another solid run for him, and Mark Bowden hanging right with those top 3 who hadn't been among the top 5 all day and is sticking right there, riding in that 4th spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, well, actually counting 5th and 6th, all running laps faster than the leader the last time they came by. Not by a ton, but still quicker. That's pretty impressive stuff right now. As these guys, look at Kirkby. He is starting to reel in. Simon Kirkby is starting to reel in Mark Bowden, make this 5-car, and maybe with Dylan McIvern coming in strong, we might have 6 cars going for the lead here as we now are into our final 5 minutes.
Yeah, Kirkby is getting quicker and quicker in that yellow number 76. The last couple of laps around has ripped off laps just about as fast as Kevin Conway, near identical lap to the race leader Kevin Conway at the front of the field.
How about that lap by Dylan McIvern, that last lap? A 56 flat. I mean, that is 3/10 faster than anybody else turned on that last lap. That is an impressive drive by this guy. Fantastic stuff.
Leaders are up on the back straightaway. Conway has opened up the gap a bit now, about a half a second back to Victor Gonzalez. But I think the battle that we got to keep an eye on is that one for 3rd, because Bowden is starting to put a lot of pressure on the back of the Cody Ware red and white number 38.
Yeah, he's really come alive. This is an impressive run, certainly by Bowden, and the guy, he's feeling the heat, or he did, and then suddenly again, Simon Kirkby, after he just closed up in the back, has just tailed off again, and McIvern has dropped off with him as well. It's interesting, isn't it? You see these guys throw these laps, just run everybody down, and then suddenly they drop off a little bit, and you wonder if it might not be a case of, they get kind of caught up in the target fixation thing and then run a little wide somewhere and lose all of that momentum.
Getting down to the final 2.5 minutes in this 50-minute event for the Lamborghinis. Another car has gone off course. Driver's left is sitting in the grass just out of turn number 7 and has stopped there, was rolling momentarily in the downhill section of turn 7. Leaders flashing back around to put 22 laps up on the scoreboard, approaching 2 to go. Oh, contact there, possibly coming through turn 11. Yes, indeed.
That was McIvern, I think, trying to get down underneath Simon Kirkby, and they got together, and Kirkby got the worst of that and spun. And I think we are going to be having, next time by, we will have a white flag being shown as Kevin Conway, well, he's responded. He just turned, by one of the fastest laps of the race, a 56 flat late in the going here with Gonzalez 2nd, Cody Ware 3rd, Bowden 4th, and now Dylan McIvern, after that little bump that he had with Simon Kirkby, now shows in 5th with Anthony Imperiato. In the 6th spot, Dean DiGiacomo. And then number 33 is 7th. 8th is the number 15 of Lance Fenton. Kirkby now back to 9th. And in 10th, and flying right now is Ryan Eversley. He just turned a 53. Oh, they just changed the position on me. He had just turned a 53.865 by Eversley. but I think the car that spun over there and was stalled for a minute may have been Eversley, because suddenly this last lap he came through way off at a 2:20. That would explain that spin stall and then gathering it up.
Well, Eversley's lap just a moment ago, that 1:53.8 you talked about, the fastest lap of the event. Kevin Conway into the boot has opened up the advantage back to Victor Gonzalez, who has really had to change his strategy. Now Gonzalez in the white 99, now more in a defensive mode. Cody Ware has climbed up all over the rear of that automobile and is applying a tremendous amount of pressure. He almost got him heading into the bus stop. He's going to have another opportunity at that when they come back around, but the leaders now coming out of turn number 9 into turn 10, and they will see the white flag, the final circuit around for the Lamborghinis here this afternoon.
Well, I think that's exactly what has changed Gonzalez's strategy. He wanted to just focus on trying to get around Conway, and then Cody Ware comes up and just starts bugging him. Here we go, white flag, last lap as they come flashing through. Let's see what we got for times. And, boy, Victor Gonzalez in the latter part of that lap uncorked a 56 flat and is now back again all over the rear deck of Conway. This is it, the last lap. Can Conway do it? Can Gonzalez or Ware or Bowden pull off something magical here in this final lap and make it happen? And watch the entrance and exit of this inner loop. This is where we've seen a lot of activity with these guys, isn't it?
Well, it's almost interesting because it seemed as though Conway's car was off the pace a little bit there in the second half of that last lap. Coming to the white flag, Gonzalez will look to the bottom, but he doesn't have position to make it work heading into the bus stop. And now they'll just cruise through 1, 2, 3, 4, single file. It's Conway, Gonzalez, Ware, and then you go back to Bowden, who's sitting there running in that competitive 4th position.
And did you notice, I mean, Gonzalez shallowed up his run into the inner loop, and now here comes Cody Ware. Oh, he saw an opportunity. He's attacked to the inside, down into turn 6, through the laces of the boot. The only thing Gonzalez can do is try and stay put. He does. That'll give him the inside, down into turn 7, into the toe, and he's taken that spot back. But that little exchange, that may have been the breath of life for Kevin Conway, because now he's got about 3 car lengths on these guys, more than that now, as they are heading down into the heel of the boot, and it almost looks like Gonzalez may have missed a shift or something happened exiting the toe, because he's lost touch.
The battle appears to be now for the 2nd position. Smooth going for Kevin Conway into the left-handed turn number 9. And right now Gonzalez is able to hold on to the 2nd spot. Cody Ware's charge has quieted down for a moment, but a couple of more turns left for Kevin Conway. Makes it through turn 10, and now he heads for turn number 11 with eyes on the checkered flag.
Oh boy, this is going to be it here. Conway's got the room. It looks like there's enough gap between everybody here that nobody's going to be able to attack Conway. We're moving right to the wall to say thank you to his guys, and he does it. Brings home his 3rd win of the season for Conway, and try as hard as he might, Cody Ware could just not sneak around the outside of Victor Gonzalez, but Cody Ware will be our top amateur class finisher and doing a nice job. Ooh, bit of a battle here back on the track. And as they flash by, that's Anthony Imperato holding off Dean DiGiacomo. That was a good scrap as well. But in the amateur category, it'd be Cody Ware, Bowden, and Dylan McIvern, along with Lee Carpenter, 1, 2, 3. And Conway will win the Pro-Am with Gonzalez 2nd in that class. And I think Dean DiGiacomo will probably end up 3rd in that category as well. Boy, what a great day. You can see the celebrations for Kevin Conway. He's happy with this one.
Certainly is. He rebounded from the struggles that he had yesterday. Hand out the window. He is victorious in the number 29 here today in our Lamborghini Black Pond Super Trofeo event, race number 2 for the Carolinas dealer and Change Racing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, beautiful cars on a beautiful racetrack on a absolutely stunningly beautiful day here at Watkins Glen International. All part of the Salins 6 hours of the Glen weekend here. And boy, did these Lamborghini Black Pond Super Trofeo North America machines put on a great show today. Absolutely fantastic. And just a great job once again. Congratulations to Kevin Conway as he brings him around. Gonzalez once again absolutely fierce in his pursuit. And he and Cody Ware, that last lap battle that Cody Ware started attacking for 2nd, that just opened the margin up enough that it allowed Conway to just put his head down, not worry about his mirrors, and pull it off. I think one of the great drives of this race certainly was Mark Bowden, folks. That's just a great story. Bowden starting in 11th spot in that Fall Line Motorsport team, Lamborghini of Chicago. Gallardo Super Trofeo car. Just a phenomenal run up into fourth, into throwing down some laps that were just spectacular. I think that the Fall Line team has announced to the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship, we're here and we're serious.
Here comes your race winner now down into turn number 11, Kevin Conway. Will make his way back onto the front straightaway and bring it down towards Gatorade Victory Lane. Victorious today in race number 2 for the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship Series here at Watkins Glen International. Stay with us. We've got one more event to go this afternoon. 6:45 on track will be the second race for the Porsche GT3 Cup cars. And boy, yesterday it was an absolute thriller and a pass being made in the final turn.